Hi guys, welcome to another sit and chat. This video is going to be serious, it's going to be upsetting, and it might be triggering for some people. So I'm placing a trigger warning right here. This is going to be discussing disordered eating and having an unhealthy relationship with food. And the reason that I'm making this video is because Gwyneth Paltrow just did a podcast that is going absolutely viral, and I wanted to touch on a couple of the topics. So if you are in a place where you would like to listen, then please keep watching. Right, you guys, so Gwyneth Paltrow was just recently on a podcast, and some of the clips are going absolutely viral. Lots of people weighing in, from doctors to people that are just in media to nutritionists to fitness people. Lots of different opinions, and I'm going to include a couple of those at the end of this video. But I want to talk about this from an influencer stance and the power that comes with a platform. When an influencer, whether it's someone who is an actor or a YouTuber or a podcaster, I don't care. When you have a platform and you have people that are willing to listen to you speak and take your advice and possibly look at it as the right way to live, the right way to think, the better option of how to go about life, it really upsets me when somebody wants to disguise wellness as disordered eating. It really upsets me, and I see it so often. Gwyneth Paltrow wanted to say how she has bone broth for lunch or a soup, and then she will do intermittent fasting, which is not a big deal. The fasting part's not the big deal of this. But to try to claim that bone broth is a meal, when typically bone broth is going to maybe contain around 40 calories.
What's your wellness routine look like now?
I eat dinner early in the evening. I do a nice intermittent fast. I usually eat something about 12. And in the morning, I'll have some things that won't spike my blood sugar, right? So I have coffee, but I really like soup for lunch. I have bone broth for lunch a lot of the days. Try to do 1 hour of movement. So I'll either take a walk, or I'll do Pilates, or I'll do my Tracy Anderson. And then I get in the sauna. I dry brush and I get in the sauna. So I do my infrared sauna for 30 minutes. And then for dinner, I try to eat, according to paleo. So lots of vegetables. It's really important for me to support my detox.
And then you are going to consume that small amount of liquid and go into a sauna where you're going to be sweating out any nutrients that you might have in your body. Is a horrible thing to put out and say, I'm living my life this way. I know that people look up to me, knowing that they could take that as acceptable advice. I've talked before about influencers giving out dietary advice, all of this kind of stuff, trying to say that essential oils will heal diseases, trying to say that, you need to go to this church and it'll help with your mental health, like all of this kind of stuff. Instead of telling people to go to their doctor, go to their therapist, go to their dietitian, influencers want to tell you what to eat and what might be a better option and what they do to create this, quote, perfect image, even though the image is usually altered by Facetune and Photoshop. It's just such a tangled mess of misinformation, toxicity, body dysmorphia, dangerous advice to be giving out to people. And I know that I'll probably get at least a couple people in the comments saying, oh, well, she was just saying what she does, not saying that it's advice. When you have a voice as loud as Gwyneth Paltrow, what you say is no longer just, this is what I do. Unless you specifically are coming out and saying, This is only what works for me. I am working very closely with my doctor and my healthcare providers to assure that I am okay. This is what I do. She is not giving any disclaimers. She is not encouraging people to go see their own doctor or their own dietitian. So the bone broth topic is one huge problem. The other huge problem that came out of this podcast is that Gwyneth Paltrow was wearing an IV to get vitamins during her podcast. And the podcast host, I'm not familiar with this guy. I don't know who he is. But he wanted to say, oh, doing an IV and potting is so on brand for us.
As we're recording this right now, you have a little IV, so which is so on brand for both of us. We pod and IV at the same time.
I'm really embarrassing myself right here.
People want to ask about IVs.
I love an IV. I'm an early IV adopter. Glutathione, I love to have in an IV. Kind of a random, more fringy one, phosphatidylcholine. That's my favorite IV when I can find them. They're quite hard to find.
Yeah.
And those make me feel so good. But this today, just because I was flying, I have just a bag of good old-fashioned vitamins.
Getting your vitamins through an IV is not a trend. It's not cool. It's not something that should be looked up to. It is not something that should be mimicked. Getting your vitamins through an IV is for somebody who is unwell and needs to supplement by getting their vitamins through an IV. It is not something that you make a quirky Instagram about. It is not something that you show off your elitism. Because let's just all be super honest, these vitamin IV places that will do this, number one, they're very expensive. No, actually, number one, they're very dangerous. But number two, they're also very expensive. So most people don't even have access to that, but let's also not encourage anybody who might have the financial means to do that. Let's not act like it's a trend because it's not cool. Get your vitamins through your diet. Maybe instead of having a bowl of bone broth for lunch, if you were eating a balanced meal, Gwyneth, then you wouldn't need to be IVing and potting. You wouldn't have to, say, oh, I was an early adopter of an IV. You are a young woman who should be able to get all of the vitamins and nutrients that you need through a well-balanced diet. Instead, what I see is somebody who is disguising wellness as having disordered eating and supplementing through an IV. It is so infuriating to me to look at the wellness industry as a whole, because the wellness industry consistently puts out bad advice, bad information, and will disguise it as you're taking care of yourself. Not eating a balanced meal is not caring for yourself. It is not going to do anything good for you. You will end up having a bad relationship with food. And at one point, you might have to get your vitamins through an IV. IV therapy is for people who are unwell and they are unable to eat a balanced diet. It's not for social media. It's not cool. It's not, a thing that you do. It shouldn't be in the rotation of normal activities. What the hell is wrong with people? So anyone excusing Gwyneth Paltrow, and not to pick on Bethany Frankel, but I saw a TikTok from Bethany Frankel and she was essentially completely downsizing what Gwyneth Paltrow was doing.
Why does anyone care if Gwyneth Paltrow says that she drinks bone broth for breakfast and intermittent fasts? This is the woman that does cupping and ozone therapy up the ass and only ate macrobiotic for years until she was pregnant, and then she, ate meat, which was like an uproar. And she has a wellness website, and she's all about acai and wheatgrass and chia and all this shit and making money on it hand over fist and all the products. So you can't expect a dog to be a cat. This is a woman who made millions off a candle that was called "This Candle Smells Like My Vagina." Meanwhile, Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina didn't smell like that on her 18th birthday. And her base is a middle-aged mom. Her base isn't tweens. So when people are talking about eating disorders, my daughter doesn't know who Gwyneth Paltrow is. So it's not for 18-year-olds. I think it's for moms, and we all know her shtick. We've been hearing her shtick for years. We're waiting for the, my candle smells like bone broth, and so does my vagina product. My vagina smells like bone broth product. We're waiting for that so we can just fucking pour more money into the Goop universe. But don't hate, because she's just being truthful and being who she is and who she always has been. So it's almost like, I don't know if you want her to tell the truth or lie. If she says she ate a fucking cheeseburger for lunch, you're going to say she's full of shit. If she says she drank bone broth, which seems probably true, and ate placenta fritters, you're going to say she's promoting the wrong shit. I would say Gwyneth Paltrow can't win for losing, but she seems to be winning because her brand is doing pretty fucking well.
But then I remember that Bethany Frankel also had a, quote, skinny girl line of alcoholic beverages. So Bethany Frankel and anyone else who is saying, oh, well, it's not a big deal. Oh, people shouldn't be influenced. Oh, people shouldn't listen. Gwyneth Paltrow has made a massive amount of money by living a wellness lie. And now she's on this podcast doing this absolute shit show while she has an IV plugged in her arm to get her vitamins. What an atrocity. Now, I didn't want to make this video super long because I know that this is a very upsetting topic to a lot of people. But it's important that it's called out because there are literally young girls who will be influenced. And I think that's really important too. The older that I get, I have friends that have kids and stuff, and it's such a reminder that as parents or mentors or aunts or uncles or godparents or whatever role you play in a child's life, whether you see that child once a year or once every 3 years, whatever, it's super important to remind these kids that they are beautiful, because social media is just taking a hold of the mental health of these young, impressionable kids. And sadly, I think that some kids look at these social media influencers and stuff, and they might take what they say a little bit more seriously because they're not hearing the opposite at home. If they're hearing the opposite at home and they're being built up and they're confident and they know they're beautiful and they know they're loved and they have healthy relationships with food and healthy relationships with their friends and their family, if it's a nurturing environment, I would hope that maybe some dumb influencer would take up less real estate in these young minds. It is such a fucked up time to be raising children. It really is. And I look at it all the time and it's like, this world that we're living in is just not it for a lot of different reasons. And the way that social media is going to possibly, just interfere with an entire generation of kids, I am very, very scared to see what the end result might be. But either way, I wanted to talk about this. I feel like it's really important. Anybody with a platform, I don't want to sound like a content cop. Some of y'all will say I'm a content cop right now. But this is a really important conversation to have. It is upsetting and it's triggering, but I wanted to make this video immediately for you guys because I've seen so many other really good points of view and I wanted to bring the conversation here to my YouTube channel. So I think that's going to be it for now. If you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
So many trigger warnings for what I'm about to say here, folks. What I'm hearing is that she eats nothing for breakfast, just black coffee until noon, then has bone broth for lunch, which clocks in at a measly 40 calories per cup, then does a whole hour of exercise, 30 minutes of sweating in a sauna, and then has some vegetables for dinner to support her detox. So many red flags in such a short 30-second interview. But to recap, an 18-hour fasting window is often far too long for healthy females to help support normal reproductive function. Bone broth, vegetables, and maybe some paleo protein in there, whatever the that means, is generally going to make up such a small fraction of the calories that an active woman needs to thrive. Paleo is bullshit. Nobody needs to be eating like their ancestors. There's a reason why their lifespan was a fraction of ours today. For the love of all that is holy, you do not need to detox. Your body does this naturally every day just by peeing, pooping, breathing, and sweating. This woman is going to die on the detox hill because she basically created this hysteria and is profiting off it every fucking day. I will die on my own hill trying to prove her wrong. Oh boy, your girl is riled up, and I think it's time to tox.
Fashion vitamins.
This is a reminder that just because somebody is rich and famous does not mean that they know how to make better healthcare decisions for themselves or for other people. If you've been following me for a while, you know that from time to time I will call out people who try to make health claims that have no proven benefit and can be potentially harmful. For the vast majority of people, you do not need an intravenous infusion of vitamins or whatever Gwyneth Paltrow is trying to sell you, because that's not shown to show any benefit, and it's only a way to show some type of elitism that would make people want to flock to that to spend a lot of money that's going to not necessarily be helpful. Eating food is okay.
Have bone broth for lunch a lot of the days.
This isn't wellness, this is sickness. And I'm all for freedom of speech, but I truly believe as a disordered eating therapist, it should be illegal to put this out into the media. Because people like Gwyneth Paltrow have a huge following and a massive platform that highly influence impressionable and vulnerable young and older people. People who start out on a bit of a health kick and end up with full-blown eating disorders. Many of whom in turn then influence the people they surround themselves with in their daily lives, including their own children. Like there's a reason why they're called almond mums nowadays. This isn't only Gwyneth Paltrow's fault. It's not like she was birthed out the womb suddenly addicted to bone broth detoxes and wellness. She herself has been influenced and has probably spent a huge amount of money finding out this misinformation. But while she can afford these $9,000 plus retreats, the average Joe can't. So what has she done, as well as many other celebrities and influential people? She has developed her own, still expensive but more affordable and accessible regimes and programs. And 9 times out of 10, they don't promote balanced health and wellness, they promote sickness.
What's your wellness routine look like now?
This clip is total bullshit. Gwyneth Paltrow describes her wellness routine, where she basically describes a very restrictive pattern of eating. This clinically does not meet her basal metabolic demands. And what she doesn't mention in this clip, but she mentions in other ones, is that she's actively hooked up to IV fluids as she's giving this podcast interview. If you do not have the ability to maintain hydration status and need IV fluids, that is not wellness. In her words, oh, they're just good old-fashioned vitamins. You know where else you can get vitamins? Food. Eat food. That's how you don't end up with those nutritional deficiencies. So this is not an example of wellness. This is diet culture. This is perpetuating eating disorder behavior. And to use your billion-dollar platform to use this as an example of wellness is gross negligence. It's not okay.